In terrifying interview, William Barr goes full MAGA. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, bringing you the obvious, and today, on the Intelligencer, which you're going to find is not very intelligent. I mean, just looking at this headline, terrifying interview, William Barr goes full MAGA. I mean, seriously? You know, the left is so far gone that MAGA to them is a slur. Imagine actually believing that Make America Great is somehow evil? And wasn't this slogan like ripped off from Reagan anyway? So it has a picture of William Barr. So obviously the Intelligencer is a left-wing rag. We're going to read it. We're going to see what they have to say. Let's see the true terror of MAGA. After the legal establishment had granted him benefit of the doubt, Attorney General William Barr has shocked his erstwhile supporters with his aggressive and frequently dishonest interventions on behalf of President Trump. The spectacle of an esteemed lawyer abetting this would-be strongman's boss every authoritarian instinct has left Barr's critics grasping for explanations. Some have seized on the darker threads of his history in the Reagan and Bush administrations. Really? It reads like a dystopian dark fantasy novel, right? Like, oh, the era of Bush, the era of Reagan. Those were dark times where people had no food. It was so horrible. Horrible. When he misled the public about a secret Department of Justice memo and helped cover up the Iran-Contra scandal. According to the left, you're either with us or against us. But Barr's long detailed interview with John Crawford suggests the rot goes much deeper than a simple mania for untrammeled executive power. Barr is drunk deep from the Fox News worldview of Trumpian paranoia. And they also say Fox News is a slur. Oh, you know, I'm sorry. It wasn't Fox News that snuck debate questions to Hillary Clinton, was it? Oh wait, no, that was CNN, right? It wasn't CNN who lied to the American public and said the WikiLeaks were illegal to read. Oh wait, it was. It was CNN. It was CNN. It's hard to convey how far over the edge Barr has gone without reading the entire interview, which lasted an hour. But the few key comments illustrate the depth of his investment in Trump's perspective. And what's wrong with wanting to make America great? Is that some sort of bad perspective? Barr, as he has done repeatedly, provides a deeply misleading account of what Robert Mueller found. He did not reach a conclusion, he says. He provided both sides of the issue, and his conclusion was he wasn't exonerating the president, but he wasn't finding a crime either. The left is so delusional that they literally cannot accept the fact that Mueller said no collusion, no crimes, innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. The left can't understand that. It's too much for their warped minds. You know, all that cognitive dissonance, they just can't wrap it around their little brains. As Mueller stated in the report and again at his press conference, he felt bound by a policy preventing him from charging the president with a crime, or even saying that the president had committed a crime. Because he had no evidence. Mueller's view is that his job vis-a-vis president misconduct is to describe the behavior and leave it up to Congress to decide if it's a crime. Several hundred former federal prosecutors have stated, and Mueller clearly signaled, the action he described in the Mueller report are crimes, or would be if the president could be charged with a crime. Absolutely coping. Yeah, this is pure coping and grasping at straws. If they actually had the power to take out Trump, they would. Oh, but they haven't. Because they don't. Because there's nothing to accuse him of because there was no crimes. I don't see any WikiLeaks on Trump. Or do you forget that WikiLeaks has a substantial history of providing leaks that are not good for the right wing, right? Later in the interview, Barr grossly contradicts Mueller's findings with regards to Trump's ties to Russia. Mueller has spent 2.5 years, and the fact there's no evidence of a conspiracy, he says, so it was bogus. The whole idea that Trump was in cahoots with the Russians is bogus. This is just a wild lie. You know, this is pure propaganda. This is a pure propaganda article, and I'm just here to laugh at it. To laugh at their paranoia and distortion. Oh my gosh. Mueller was unable to establish a criminal conspiracy between Trump and Russia because there's no evidence. He was unable to establish it in part because some individuals invoked their Fifth Amendment right, or provided information that was false or incomplete, or deleted relevant communications. I think you're getting them confused with Hillary, but okay. Indeed, the two Trump campaign officials most closely linked to Russian cutouts, Paul Manafort and Roger Stone, refused to cooperate with the prosecutors. A failure to establish a criminal conspiracy is not the same thing as finding no evidence of a conspiracy. You know, that's literally the the religious argument. Okay, so let's say I'm a pastafarian, and I believe that a being made of pasta and meatballs is the God that created the universe. And people say to me, we were unable to find any evidence of a flying spaghetti monster, despite rigorous scientific work. And then I could say, just because you couldn't find any evidence, that doesn't mean there's no evidence. Therefore, flying spaghetti monster is true. Hail the pastafarian. And you see how ridiculous that argument is? Nowhere does the Mueller report say there's no evidence of a conspiracy. Some of the potential conspiracy elements were unprovable. Well, if they're unprovable, then by our law, Trump is innocent. Innocent until proven guilty. If you cannot prove guilt, they are innocent. Mueller never figured out why Manafort gave 75 pages of polling data to a Russian agent. Who cares? They have their own polls, their own research. The report, in fact, finds extensive evidence that Trump was in cahoots with Russia. His top campaign officials took a meeting with a Russian agent, promising them help from the Russian government. Yeah, Trump was approached by Russia with help for a campaign because Hillary Clinton's a warmonger and she wanted to go to war with Russia. And Trump turned them down. He turned them down multiple times. They don't tell you about that now, do they? They knew better than to accept help from Russia. Even though Russia's fully within their right, I feel like everyone forgets that basic political fact. Hillary Clinton was threatening war against Russia. Trump was promising cooperation. Who do you think they're going to root for? Trump asked Russia on camera to hack his opponent's emails, and they carried out a hacking attempt that day. Most likely, there was no hacking. Most likely, it was an inside leak. I'm not saying it was Seth Rich, but it had to be somebody on the inside. Trump was pursuing a lucrative no-risk business deal requiring Russian government approval during his campaign and lying about it, making him vulnerable to blackmail by Russia. No. Trump is an entrepreneur who builds construction. He's a construction person. He builds buildings, real estate. Yeah, he had plans to build a building in Russia. So what? Okay. Calm down, Mr. Obvious. Today is not the day. Sharing an explosive secret that could destroy your campaign in order to potentially collect a massive payoff from a party you know is doing illegal things to help you is a definition of being in cahoots. Yeah, it would be if this wasn't all like your Russian fan fiction of Trump and Putin. In fact, most of the things that you've come up with are pure fan fiction. Barr goes on to repeat Trump's obsession with text, capturing the political character of Peter Daszak and Lisa Page, two romantically involved FBI agents. Oh yeah, two romantic FBI agents that were anti-Trump and literally were caught planning treason against the now president of the United States of America. Treason is treason, folks. Why have we forgotten that? It's hard to read some of the text with and not feel that there was a gross bias at work. And they're appalling, he tells Crawford. There is, in fact, nothing unusual about FBI agents expressing political opinions. There is something unusual about FBI agents abusing their authority to try and influence an election, now isn't there? An investigation by the FBI's Inspector General, oh, you mean Comey, the one who was fired for being corrupt and letting the Clintons off the hook, did not find evidence to connect the political views expressed in these messages to the specific investigative decisions that we reviewed. And no serious person doubts the overall weight of the political opinion at the FBI leans rightward. Again, man, I need those citations. How do you expect me to feed my children? The Bureau has never had a Democratic director, and James Comey testified that during the campaign, agents appeared to be leaking heavily to Rudy Giuliani. Comey violated the policy by scolding Clinton and then publicly reopening the investigation, in part due from pressure of the leaks from the FBI's pro-Trump cabal. Barr's depiction of the FBI as a bastion of anti-Trump sentiment is grossly at odds with that evidence. Well, no, Comey's definitely a left-winger type person. I don't know if he claims to be a right-winger, but no, we've had plenty of evidence that the FBI was biased and full of left-wingers who wanted to subvert the presidency. Luckily, they failed and America won. Bless this country. Even more astonishingly, Barr proceeds from the false premise to liken the FBI's counterintelligence investigation of Trump to right-wing birther conspiracies. Barr portrays the Russian investigation as an effort to overturn Trump's election. Because it is. You absolute brainlet. I mean, republics have fallen because of Praetorian Guard mentality where government officials get very arrogant. They identify the national interest with their own political preferences, and they feel that anyone who has a different opinion, is somehow an enemy of the state. And that there's a tendency that they know better, and that, they're there to protect as guardians of the people. That can easily translate into essentially supervening the will of the majority and getting your own way as a government official. Yeah, this is pretty much the left. He's right about that. This is Trump's own favorite conspiracy theory, dressed up in more elevated language than Trump himself can muster, Praetorian Guard mentality, but making the same ugly charge that the FBI plotted an illegal coup to stop Trump's election. I've literally heard stories about exactly that, and I'm inclined to believe them. Barr hints throughout the interview that he has seen secret evidence he cannot share that supports his sinister conclusion. I have not gotten answers that are well satisfactory, and in fact probably have more questions, and that some of the facts that I've learned don't hang together with the official explanation of what happened, he says. That's all I really will say. Things are just not jiving. So obviously he has evidence of the left-wing corruption, especially of the Democrats, who seem to break the law almost every day. But he can't talk about them. Hopefully it's true. Who knows? Maybe someday they'll get what they deserve. It is impossible to disprove Barr's claims to have uncovered a secret cabal to defeat Trump. But one might wonder why this cabal chose to infiltrate Trump's campaign in an effort to smear him as a Russian stooge, and then fail to use the dirt before the election. Yeah, they tried. They tried to use everything they could against Trump, and it all failed. This is just their continuing attempt. Indeed, even as reporters were probing Trump's growing swath of shady Russian ties, the FBI was aggressively spinning the opposite story to the media. The New York Times reported this spin is now an infamous story asserting no clear link to Russia, and even the hacking into Democratic emails. FBI and intelligence officials now believe was aimed at disrupting the presidential election rather than electing Mr. Trump. Barr's theory is a partisan cabal of rabid Trump haters decided to undermine his campaign by ginning up a phony scandal that they kept secret, even lying to the media. Is like the Dr. Strangelove Soviet doomsday machine. The device deterred a nuclear first strike by automatically launching a response, but the Soviets neglected to tell the United States because the premier loved surprises. The most frighteningly clarifying comment comes at the end, when Barr lays out his belief that President Trump poses no threat whatever to democratic norms. The threat is the resistance. I think one of the ironies today is that people are saying that it's President Trump that's shredding our institutions. I really see no evidence of that. It is hard, and I really haven't seen particulars as to how that's being done. From my perspective, the idea of resisting a democratically elected president and basically throwing everything at him and, really changing the norms on the grounds that we have to stop this president, that is where the shredding of our norms and our institutions is occurring. In fact, the opposition of Trump has been marked on a whole by its fastidity. Oh, God, I can't read this anymore. The article just about wraps up here. Everything Barr said and has done during the investigation tells us he is not lying about this belief. The terrifying truth is that he all but surely believes every word. As far as Barr is concerned, Trump has done nothing wrong. And you know what? That's the damn truth. And you know what? This was a long article. I'm going to skip the comment section. I read this just so I could show you, the inner workings of the left. This is how they think. This is how they spread propaganda. This is basically how they do it. They actually believe that being MAGA is somehow, it's a bad word. It's a slur. It's somehow the bad guy thing. How absolutely insane is that? So, William Barr actually says a lot of good stuff here, and he's absolutely right. The left is insane. The left is insane. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this interview? What do you think about William Barr? Did he go full MAGA? Is MAGA somehow... it's the second coming, my friends. The second coming of tyranny. Be sure to let me know. Now, if you want to support the videos that I make, you can do so by joining me on Patreon, Subscribestar, or donating via PayPal. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.